Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Mic check, 1 2. All right, what's the deal, my people? You know what it is, Don Tony Teflon. I'm back at you, another one, and I will remove this picture and show myself soon enough. I promise you that. But this is the Hip Hop Then and Now series, and what I'm trying to do is compare the times of hip hop, how it was back then, to what it is right now. And I know people are always going to try to give the past, depending on your age. You're going to say that it was better when I was young. It was better in the 90s than it was in 2000s. And some people in the 80s may say it was better in the 80s than it was in the 90s. Everyone's going to give their era the big up, right? Because it's your era. So you definitely gonna side with your era when it's all said and done. But I want to compare certain things, not just what was better, but how things have changed and how things have stayed the same in the hip hop game, because we see a lot of different things going on in hip hop now, and we see a lot of things that just were exactly the same that we seen back in the day. It just hasn't changed, you know what I mean? But before we get into all that stuff, let me say what up to people who join us right now. What up to my man Vince? What up to Peter Griffith in the building? What up to Santavia Major rocking with us right now? And I know that this is new to my channel and stuff, and people probably like, what are you talking about? Miss Duncan the Tall was in the building rocking with us for a while. Hopefully she's still there and everything else, and hopefully that's what it is and stuff like that. So that is what we're doing. That's what we're talking about here right now. Just talk about what's going on. What up to Smoking Too Hard? Yeah, what's going on? You got your camera still on. You don't got the dot. You good, Al? Oh, he's gone. Well, Alfonso Christian Lover is supposed to be joining me for this. We'll see if he works out his technical difficulties before we stop. But we're going to be starting to talk about this topic in a little bit. You know what I mean? So make sure you hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to this channel so you can get more videos like this. And, leave in the comments section exactly what you want to hear about and everything else like that. You know what I mean? We're going to get everything else going down and all that stuff. We'll see if Alfonso's up in here. We'll give him another shot, see if he's got it going on. All right, there we go. What's going on, man?
Lot going on. But what's going? What's good?
That's what's up. Well, we got what's up to Latoya Fletcher and everything else. I said I'm joined by the one and only Alfonso Christian Lover, actor extraordinaire. You know him for many things, but especially the Wire series up in that piece. But he's been in much, much, much more things than that you can see him on and everything else. So what up to you, Latoya Fletcher? What up to everybody out here joining us and everything else? All right, now that we have established, we have a couple people up in here and stuff. I'm gonna take the banner down, show myself. I could leave the banner up the whole time. I mean, it's up to, it really is up to y'all what y'all want to do. Really up to y'all. What's the way y'all want to run it. If you want to just run it like this, podcast style, and just keep the banner up, or would you rather just see the Don Tony Teflon in all of his glory? It really is up to y'all, whatever y'all want to do. You let me know in the chat what you want to do. If you want me to leave the band up, I'll leave the band up. But if you want me to, show myself, you let me know. I can do it either way for y'all. It don't matter to me. It's all about the love for y'all. But we'll rock it like this for a little while right off the bat, and then we'll see. Maybe we'll switch it up in a little bit. So Al, we're dealing with how hip hop was then and how hip hop was now. Violence has always, all right. So they want to see the Don, so let's put the camera on. All right, we would do that. Let me take this picture down real quick. Boom. All right, let me put this up the way it should be, like that. All right, so there you go. Now you got me. All right. So now we're dealing with violence in hip hop, Al, and everything else. It's always been there. This is not something that's new. You know what I mean? When we see people getting got nowadays, people got back in the days. But I think it's gone about it a little bit. So in your experience, do you think that hip hop has gotten more violence as it's going along, or is it less violent than it used to be?
I say it's absolutely more violent with cases of murders, but But as far as words and beefs, that's always been there.
I mean, that is like what hip hop is built on, right? So hip hop, when it first started, was battle raps, and people were battling each other, and that's but basically it was built on that. That was the foundation of what hip hop was, and then it somehow turned from that. Now, listen, if you're gonna make fun of somebody, there's always a good chance that somebody is going to get upset about you making fun of them, and they're going to say something about it. You know what I mean? They're going to
Yeah.
say
Fact.
get violent about it or something like that. You know what I mean? We could start, but I think that the first notable person who lost their life from hip hop, and it wasn't even a hip hop beef, but from hip hop, I think would be Scott LaRock, right? Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I don't know if he's the first, but he lost his life. Um, yeah, over I think what was it? Was it a girl or something?
Yeah, yeah. So
Something
they
with
were.
D Nice. Something with D Nice. I know it was with D Nice. It was,
Yeah, yeah. So
you know,
from what the story is. What I know about the story is that D Nice was seeing this chick. This chick had a boyfriend, and he tried to step in between, and he wound up losing his life over that. So we see someone lose their life in hip hop, but it didn't have anything to do with actual hip hop. But he was still the first noticeable person in hip hop to lose his life due to violence. Now, KRS-One later came out there and came with the stop the violence movement. Because he's seen how hip hop was progressing. You know what I mean? He's seen that it was going back like that. You know what I mean? So it was a good movement. How did you, when that stop the violence movement came out, what did you think about it? Did you think that it was successful? Do you think that it was a smart thing for him to do? Do you think that it was done right, or you think he could have done more?
nah, it was cool. Everything was cool. It was a moment in time. It was another chapter on what hip hop is, and and he basically wanted to. First of all, with all the violence, you can't make money anyway because there's more insurance. You got to pay more insurance when you do these shows, and it's gonna be hard to do shows. I remember going around with Nori and all them. They wouldn't allow us to do shows because it's like, yo, y'all tear up the club or somebody. The club is getting mashed out every time y'all perform. So
Mhm.
it's like, you know, if everybody's catching a body for a performance that you're trying to perform and eat, it becomes hard, and it's a double-edged sword. So stop the violence is definitely needed for that, at least for them to make some bread. You know what I mean?
And I think that's a point that people don't talk about enough, is dealing with the money and the places that hip hop is performed at. When you have these violent outbreaks, and hip hop has always had a bad name, you get a bad name in hip hop, right? You get a whole. It makes it harder for promoters to go book their shows there. You can't get into big revenues, and back then, big revenues didn't really want black people doing hip hop up in there anyway, right? It was hard to get big places, but then when you do get certain places and you mess those up, it gives them the excuse to say, "See, this is why I can't have you here," right?
Yeah, facts.
You know what I mean? So I think that's one thing that definitely jumps off, and that's what people have to realize. So I remember there was one and Puff had a situation with a fire in one of his events.
Yeah, at
And
what was it? Community college. What college was that? I forgot the name of the college. Heavy D, him, Heavy D, and somebody else promoted, and people died. They got trapped in a fire over there. You
yeah,
know,
because
what's it? BMCC? Go ahead, though. I forgot
no,
what
but
college.
it was something to do with the doors, right? Like with people saying Howard University. Was it Howard University?
No, it wasn't Howard. It wasn't Howard. It was somewhere in New York. I believe it was somewhere in New York.
Yeah, and it was something to do with like the doors didn't open, like they only opened one way or something like that. And it was
Yeah,
and people just
the
started
people got
stampeding,
trapped.
and they
They
got trapped,
suffocated.
and some people got
Suffocated from the smoke
suffocated.
and all that. Yeah, yeah.
And that
It was terrible. It was terrible.
it definitely was, and it was a major stain on hip hop. You know what I mean? It was a major stain on hip hop, and for years that held over Puff's name. Like it was hard for him to get. You know what I mean? It's hard for him to get book other places after that. And then after that, it gave people, promoters, a reason not to put other hip hop or acts on, because it said we don't want to have another situation like that. So everything's a trickle down effect when you see violence and everything else like that happen back in the day. Because, you know, listen, there's always been beef in hip hop. You can go through it all, no matter who it was. But the beef in the hip hop truly didn't get to the point where it was as violent, I think, as it has become like now. Like people in the 90s, they talked about catching bodies and they talked about this on their rap records and everything else. But the bottom line is, dudes wasn't trying to mess up their money. They did not. No one really wanted to mess up their money. And we get to the major thing that happened in the 90s that would be the Tupac, East Coast, West Coast beef, dealing with Tupac and Biggie Smalls. And that's what led to a lot of people blame gangster rap because of that and everything else. But it truly wasn't about the gangster rap. And, you know, when it all came down to it. So from what the story, I think the story is very well known by a lot of people. We go through a little bit. Biggie and Tupac were boys, correct, Al? Is that how you remember the story? They were boys at first?
Yeah. They definitely, I mean, I even throughout the situation, I think they would agree they had a camaraderie. I mean, they had a certain feeling for each other. I mean, that was promoted by the magazines and the powers that be to sell magazines, and because beef has a way of selling things. You sell records that way. You sell magazines. You know, people do sound bites right now on YouTube to using, you know, beef. Tekashi 6ix9ine is a good case of that right now.
Yeah, there was DVD set called Beef.
Yeah,
talk about
Quincy Jones Jr. You know, QD3
who produced that. Just talking about beef and hip hop because drama sells, and the magazines back then is what is social media today, right? There was no social media to push the beef, so Double XL, Source Magazine, they were the social media source at the time. So, but the whole thing was, it took a month back then. Every magazine was released in a month. So it took time for that to develop. You hear one magazine, then the magazine comes out a month, 30 days later. Now you hear about it. Now with the social media, it's instant. It's on the second. It's every second of every day. Boom, 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 boom. So when there's beef that pops off, you ain't got to wait 30 days to read it in some magazine. Back then, people would say, yo, did you hear what this person said about you in the Source magazine? Like, what? Who that? What? Let me go get that. Let me get a copy of that and see it. Now you ain't got to do that. Now dudes just go on Twitter and they put your name in it and tweet it, and it pops up on your phone.
Yeah, facts.
You know, so Biggie and Tupac were cool. You know, and Tupac had said that he gave Biggie pointers. He's the one who told him how, hey, you got to make the singles for the girls, you got to make the other stuff for the dudes on there and everything else. And where the breaking point really happened was, so Tupac was going to the Quad Studios, correct?
Quad Studios in that, yes.
All right. So Tupac was supposedly going to Quad Studio to do a song with Red Hot Lovertone, right?
Yes.
All right.
No. Yeah, no. I think it was Lil Sean, right?
Yeah, was it Lil Sean putting hickeys on your chest? Little Sean?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so he was going there to do a song with Little Sean, who had that song, Putting Hickeys on Your Chest. That was his song, his big song that he came out with. He was going out there, and supposedly Tupac said only a couple of people knew that he was going to go there.
Yeah.
And he wound up getting robbed there, outside there, and getting shot during the robbery. And he felt that Biggie Smalls and Puffy set him up.
I don't know if he actually felt that, but that's what he said.
That's what he said. That was his story that he came out with, that they set him up. And that's what he used to justify going at them. That was his big thing that he wanted to do. Now, you were in the industry at the time. When you heard about that industry, about that story, how did you take it? How did it hit the hip hop world back then?
I mean, it hit it like he said it. I mean, we took Tupac word. I mean, you got shot, and you saying these are the people that did it. You like, well, we don't understand why they would do it, but this is his story. So you like, well, we're not there to see it. Then you see the things unfold. I mean, starting to see things don't make sense, and you're like, okay, well, what's the story? Then you hear, because at first Biggie and wasn't saying nothing. They wasn't saying nothing at first, and you know, but then Pac being around New York, because Pac was always around New York. A lot of people don't know that he used to spend time in Queens with stretching them from Left Rack City to all the way to South Jamaica, Queens. Stretching them was for actually Springfield, that Lawton type of area, you know.
Mhm.
And I want to say this. LL Cool J came out, and he came out. Game said this in the record. It was LL Cool J and the LA Posse. LA wasn't for California, Los Angeles. It was for Lawton, Queens. That's where the LA Posse was from, Lawton, Queens. That's why Game couldn't understand how LL got LA in his posse. That was because they were from Queens. It was a part of Queens. So that's what he was talking about. So people from that part were some thorough cats. And Stretching them was from a group called Live Squad. If you remember Live Squad,
Yep.
they were rappers, and they were running with Pac.
Yeah, so Pac was, and Pac, his family's originally from New York. Then they moved to Baltimore, and then they moved out there to California. I know this for a fact because I know that my pops, my mom's second husband, I call him Pops, he's like my pops, Roy Steffens, is the first cousin of Afeni, as you know, Afeni Shakur, but as I know and the family would know as Faye Shakur. And I remember back in the day when he was hitting them and helping them move out to California back then, before he was famous, before anyone even thought about it or anything like that. I remember when that was going down, So Pac had, he was free, he was good friends with Tretch, as it's put in here, like that was his boy. You know what I mean? And do you think that doing the movie Juice like changed him, like made him believe like he got because Pac never was that gangster that he came. You could pinpoint it to after he played Bishop, that he got so much love playing that character. Do you think that it's possible that he said, hey, this persona works, let me use this persona in my hip hop? Because if you look at all of his old other stuff, it was really, militant stuff. He's always been militant and everything else. But did that, you think, play a factor in the person that he became, the love that he got for playing that part, make him go a little bit more gangster?
I mean, it could have, but I know that he did get robbed on that set. And Stretch had to go find the nigga and punch him in his face and get his chains because somebody robbed, they robbed Tupac on that set for all his, no, I don't know, for a lot of Jews. I don't want to say all of them. But Stretch says that in the rhyme. He was like, they took the Jews and Stretch punched the nigga out of his shoes. So that's definitely
and as Latoya says, Pac used to be in Digital Underground. Yeah, he was with Digital Underground. He used to be like the roadie for them. He would clean the piano keys and do everything else for them. You know what I mean? And then he got his break doing the same song. And when you look at him in the same song, he's wearing like African
garments, because that's what he was about. He's about consciousness in the beginning.
So you could see when he first came out, he was he wanted to be, he wanted to be a conscious rapper, like X-Clan, like
Public Enemy, all of them.
Yeah, like all of them. That was his influence. But then it changed from that. It changed. somewhere it changed. And I think that if you look at Juice, I think that kind of had something to do with it. I think that when he got that love, when you got that feeling like, yo, people love that Bishop. They love that bad guy. You know what I mean? People love the bad guy. And he played a really good role. And I think that he took a little bit of that Bishop and changed that around and became. So I think that role was a little bit of a gift and a curse for him and stuff in there, you know. So when that happened, Santovi says Tupac went to the School of the Arts in Baltimore and wrote a lot of poetry. Yeah, so you look at the guy and you look at everything. You don't see this gangster. Everything in before, you don't see this gangster that he became, or said he was, or whatever he put out there. You don't see that. You see a guy who loved poetry. You see a guy who studied to be an actor. You see a guy who was Black conscious. And then you see this change in him. So leaving that and stuff, going from there, he got shot. And it did not look good when Biggie came out with the song Who Shot You. Now, that kind of led credence to Tupac's argument, whether it was or it wasn't. You know, Biggie could have made that song months before, because as people don't know, there's songs that come out that people make years before they actually come out. You know,
but it's this. It ain't the fact of the title, but it's the second verse. Now he could have had the first verse, because usually when you hear that song, you always hear one verse. But the second verse, when he was like, "Lame nigga, brain nigga, turn front page nigga." Tupac got shot in his head, and it was on the front page of the news.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's too much of a coincidence right there.
It seems like
yeah.
You know, it seems like it, you know, and you know, it's funny because back then, even though stuff was supposed to be out in the open, still, you know, it was a lot of beef in hip hop, a lot of things people didn't truly say the name of the other artists, like back in the day, and that's the way it was.
It was just meant for you to know that I'm talking about you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. It wasn't like the audience could read into it, but you know I'm talking about you, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, like and that was the 80s, early 80s. It was the 80s thing. Like you get dissed in the 80s, but they wouldn't mention your name. So the people didn't know, but you knew. Like "Jingling Baby" by LL Cool J was a diss track to Kumo D. But never in the verse did he ever say anything about Kumo D. Like he never brought his name up. The only way you could get that it was about Kumo D is when he said the line, "I'ma deliver and give a speech with vigor. So pass the wine cooler, you big black nigga." You know what I mean? Yeah. And that was the end of the song, end of the third verse, end of it right then. You know what I mean? But besides that,
hold on, wait, I gotta cut you off right there though.
Go right
Before you go into that "Jingling Baby," that original beat. All right, Marley Marl got the credit, but you know who really did the beat?
No.
Large Professor.
But did he really?
It was taken. It was made for Rakim. That beat was going to Rakim. And I'm not, for what I hear, allegedly somebody got it out the studio, sold it to Marley. And that person got dealt with later behind that. But it was made for Rakim. And, next thing it's on LL's album,
No doubt about it. I can see that going down all day. You know what I mean? Because it was promoted by LL as Marley Marl's remix single. Like that's what he promoted the song at. But that song, it just shows you that how beef was back then. They didn't say your name. So that's why, like when you seen beef like with Jay-Z later on, when you seen beef with No Vaseline, you seen, because even NWA, when they dissed Ice Cube, they didn't say his name. They were still going along that code. And then Ice Cube just said, you know what? I'm saying all y'all names. So there's no denying who I'm talking about here. You know, and that's what really made that song like a classic diss song, because he said their names. So it was a code back in, unwritten code, that you didn't say the person's name, you just talked about them because you didn't want to mess up their money or whatever the reason why they did it. But that's the way it was. So Biggie, I think, was still following that code, but then Tupac was like, you know what, I'm not, F you and the click you came, you know what I mean? And that was it. And he just came out with all his diss songs after that. That leads us up into, Tupac. Then, he came out with his diss songs, and basically the next big jumping point off of it was the Source Awards, when Snoop Dogg came out there with Suge Knight. Suge Knight comes out there and says, first Suge Knight does it first, I believe. He comes out there and says, if you don't want to manage the dancing all up in the video and being in the video, come to death row. And then Snoop Dogg goes up there and gets booed, and he gets mad, and he grabs the microphone and starts walking on the stage and saying, guys, the East Coast don't got no love for death row, then fuck the East Coast, we got no love for y'all. And that's when I think that was the final tipping point. What do you think about that?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's the final tipping point, but it was definitely a moment. I say it's a moment. It was a chink in the chain. You know what I'm saying? It was a link in the chain.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think was what do you think when it went to the point of no return? Because obviously it didn't work out. What do you think pushed it over the point of no return where it couldn't get worked out?
I mean, I can't say, because a lot of things was going on behind the scenes that we didn't know about. It was like it was a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And when Snoop said that, I think he said that out of frustration of couldn't understand, like this, like I'm Snoop, like y'all love me, don't y'all? Like that's how he was looking at it, because we did like Snoop, and we like Pac, we like Snoop, we liked Ice Cube, but they felt a certain way, they all felt a certain way, because New York is the mecca of where hip hop was started, and they just felt like we don't get that same type of vibe, coming to New York, because New Yorkers are very critical when it comes to hip hop, very critical. And if you don't have the elements all in, and you don't have them all lined up, they start breaking you down. So they like, but why break us? Like they was like, we're doing it, we just different. Like when NWA came out with the Jerry curls, that was long gone. It's like everybody was behind the times of what New York was already doing. Jerry curls is big, man. You got Eddie Murphy doing movies about that. We're coming to America with couches with a bunch of grease on it because they had Jerry curls. Like that was a joke.
Mm-hmm.
But they going hard in Cali with the Jerry curl. But it was that's what they were doing at that time. They were 10 years later, but but that's what they were doing. Like, y'all still wearing Jerry curls? So so a lot of things now everybody's caught up at the same time. Social media, you see what's going on in the middle of nowhere to wherever, because of social media. So everybody is caught up on the same timeline. You dig what I'm saying?
Yep, I know exactly what you're saying, because that's the way it was back then and everything. And what up to Miss Oh So Awesome? Have not seen you in a while. Thank you for rocking with us. I truly appreciate it.
Miss Also Awesome. That's her name?
Yeah, that's her name, Miss Oh So Awesome.
Right.
And there,
She
yeah,
awesome?
Miss, she is. You can see the picture. But yeah, that's the way it was. Back then, before social media, like when when stuff got played in New York, it didn't hit all other radio stations up and down the coast. It only hit in New York. So stuff would have hit in New York, and it would take months before it went down south. it would take months before it got to the West Coast. So people that was so far behind when these other places and New York set the trends. You know, we had all the trend, anything that was set, especially in the hip hop industry, we set the trend. Whether it was Adidas or
It was hip hop and fashion.
mm-hmm,
Fashion was coming out of New York. It was quickly changing. You know, so a lot of things. And it was quick. It was a quick pace. It wasn't like the same thing all the time. So I mean, and like you said, by the time it hit the other coast, we were like, dang, y'all still doing that? Y'all still
exactly.
wearing mock necks? For real?
Mm-hmm. Like,
Like
oh man,
who
we
doing that?
done we outward cross colors. Now we doing Carcanine. And then by the time they get Carcanine, oh, we doing Jabos now. By the time they get the Jabos on, we on Hillfinger right now. You know, so they
Yeah,
was always a couple of steps behind of what was going on in New York. And New York was basically when you dealt with New York, you know what I mean. You deal with to be in New York, you had to be to make it in the rap game in New York at that time. Your lyrics had to be on. They cared more about. They didn't care about the rappers themselves. Didn't care about
yeah,
the hit songs that you can make. They cared about how nice it was that you spit. And when it came to the other coasts and stuff and other places, they cared more about making a hit song. They didn't care if they were nice. As long as they rode the beat good, and they had a good dance beat and girls dance, they was all about that. But then New York was like, well, you whack, son. You can't really rap.
yeah.
You just making a hit song. That's why Hammer didn't get any respect. That's why Vanilla Ice didn't get any respect. They sold a lot of
Wait,
records,
wait,
but
wait.
lyrically, they weren't up to par.
Yeah, yeah. Even KRS One talks about this, and he regrets it with PM Dawn. PM Dawn was I think one of the first before Drake. He was Drake before Drake because he was singing and rapping, and although he was writing and stuff, you know, but he was like, you know, KRS One's like, this is not hip hop, and threw him off the stage, and he regretted that afterwards because, and rest in peace to I don't know his name, but the PM Dawn dude.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I
Rest
mean?
in peace to him.
You know, yeah, you know, he definitely had hit songs, hits, and
Mm-hmm.
but you know, but he was different because of what he was singing about and rapping.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And then after it gets from that part of hip hop and everything, we see like, you know, the end for Tupac. And when I compare it to, you know, what's just jumped off here with these young cats, King Von, I see the
Vaughn.
similarities between Tupac and King Von, exactly how it went down and how they both of their lives ended. And a lot of similarities here because King Von was a guy who, you know, who had a murder charge. He did 2 years in jail. His man got hit with 28 years for it. He beat the charge. And then his
Yeah,
man got out. He went down there to Atlanta. He got caught up in another shooting, and he beat that. And it just seemed like he had 9 lives. And the same thing was going with Tupac. Tupac got shot in the studio. He survived that. You know what I mean? Then he got, you know, he got hit with a rape charge. He had to do time in jail for that. He went away for that and everything else. And he came out after that, you know, and that's kind of how Suge got his hand around Tupac because he was down and out at that time. And Suge used that to his advantage to get him because Suge, you know, even though he had people at death row, he had Snoop Dogg and he had these other dudes at death row. Those dudes weren't movie stars. Those dudes weren't worldwide. They weren't what Pac was. You know, they were stars in hip hop, but Pac was a star across the world. He was bigger than
yeah,
hip hop.
yeah. Facts.
You know, so that's what Suge wanted. He wanted someone bigger that transcended hip hop. And Tupac, you know, coming out of jail, he was like, now I got a big dude like this. You know the rumors of Suge Knight holding Vanilla Ice out the window and everything
Yeah,
else. You
yeah.
know, and
And
people
then
was
also with Pac, what he thought he had Pac for a long time. That's why he signed him to like a 6, 7 year contract, but didn't realize Pac was a workaholic when he did them 6, 7 albums in one year. And he was like, okay, you could, you know, I fulfill my contract. I'm gonna go start my label now. You know, you can have these 6 albums, 6, 7 albums. You know, he was, oh wait, this is too quick. You know what I'm saying? He didn't know Pac was a workaholic like that. He didn't know he could make 4 or 5 songs a day. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how Pac was. And I explain this to Pac. You see this in the Beef, I think one of the documentaries, where Pac is explaining his his way of thinking. He was like, look, I'm laying songs down. I let the producer sit back and tweak what he has to tweak, but I just get it down and let him go back and tweak whatever he has to tweak. And that's what I try to tell people when I'm in the studio with them. Lay your lyrics down. And then we'll go back, but some people try to cut, paste, and fix while they're going along. I'm like, yeah, we could have did 5 songs already. Like, unless you're the producer and the rapper,
Mm-hmm.
even then, I think you should still just lay it down and come back to it, and then you know, map it out, whatever the case may be. But that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. So yeah, so when you're dealing with Pac, you know, he was a workaholic. He put all down everything. And as I said, when comparing him to King Von and how they got messed up, they both had so many chances. And they both were superstar stars. Now Pac was bigger than King Von. King Von didn't have a chance to get as big as Pac. Right? He didn't do the acting, he didn't have a chance. He was too young. And they both got multiple chances in life, multiple chances to get away from whatever they were doing out there in the streets and get their foot out of the streets. And it both came back to bite them in almost the exact same way, because seeing Pac, he went out to watch a Mike Tyson fight, and he was out there, watching the Mike Tyson fight. And if anyone has ever been to a live boxing match, you know, if you've never been to a live boxing match, you should go. It's a great thing, but it's number one, it's very racially divided. I'll tell you that. Like, if you go to a live boxing match and it's a Mexican dude fighting a black dude, it's divided by Mexicans and blacks. Like, there's easily a fight can break out. The tension in the air in a boxing match is that a fight can break out in the crowd at any time. It gets that hype. If you have a Mexican dude with a Puerto Rican dude and you have Mexican and Puerto Rican people in there, any one of those racial go right on them racial lines and they could start a fight. They could start a brawl anytime. It could just jump off. I mean, I've been to many fights and I'm telling you, that's the feeling you get when you're in that crowd. You feel, now this dude is friends with Mike Tyson. You know what I mean, Pac. So if a regular fan feels that just from sitting there, how about if you boys with this cat and then you see this dude knocking people out and everything, and he's doing all this thug like this, oh, thug like this, thug like that, yada, yada, yada. My boy Mike Tyson just knocked this dude out. So when they got into the altercation with the dude in the lobby, this is why he put his feet in there. This is why he threw his blows, in my opinion. And it was number one, the wrong thing to do. He was at a point in his life where there's no reason for him to ever lay hands or feet on anyone at any particular time. It wasn't like the guy tried to snuff Pac and Pac was defend. He went after the guy and the guy was on the floor and he had to put the boots to him. And anyone's going to be noticed out of the whole thing, they're going to remember you. You're Tupac. You know, that's the face that's going to be, it don't matter who else hits him. It could have been 80 guys. The only guy he's going to remember is that Tupac did this to me.
Yeah.
You know, so when you see the same thing go down with King Von, when he goes and he puts his hands on this dude and he starts beating this dude, then he has all his boys charging down. And then he ain't realizing what this other guy in the car has the hammer on him. And he put himself in that situation to allow him to, because you can't underestimate people. I mean, I think that's the number one thing that you learn in New York when you grow up in New York City. You learn that anybody's capable of anything, and you can't be underestimating people. You know what I mean? You can't underestimate. You can't think, oh, I'm this big, so this little nigga ain't gonna be able to do nothing to me. Like no one thinks about that. You don't think about that. In New York, you always on alert. Like yo, anyone can get got. You know what I mean, and stuff like that. And as Mara says, he was too big of a star. Let your bodyguards fight for you.
Yep, facts.
That's what you do. But he wanted to put his feet in the mix. Because, you know, if you ever been in a brawl, and I've been in brawls, and I'm talking brawls like the outsiders, like 20 people, 30 people fighting 30 people. Or if you, whether it's a brawl or whether it's just a fight outside, I'm going to see you at 3 o'clock and there's a fight outside and your man's fighting. Anytime there's a fight going on or anything like that, and you see your man beating someone up, there is a temptation inside of you, and I'm telling you, to throw a kick. There is. It's just the way it is that you sitting there and you see your man fighting somebody, and in the back of your head, like, yo, if this guy just get too close, I'm gonna knock him. I'm gonna hit him. I'm gonna hit him. Because people always want to have something to talk about. You know, and it comes down to that, like aftermath. Yo, you see the way I hit that dude, though? You see that kick I threw, right? Everybody want to have something to brag about later on. And that's what happens when people want to brag about situations and they wind up putting themselves in a bad spot. And I think that these two guys who live similar parallel lives, you know what I mean, both went out the same way. When it came down, you know what I mean? When it came down, it was the same exact way. They had both had no business putting themselves in the situation that they put themselves in, and they're both gone because of it. And it didn't have nothing to do with no East Coast, West Coast beef while he passed away. From what I'm knowing, it had nothing to do with that. Just that was publicized. Now, the Biggie Small situation is a difference. That to me is a different situation, though. This is a homicide that's still unsolved, and many people have opinions on it. But you know, it to me, Biggie Smalls was a retaliation because Pac was dead, and people were mad that Pac was dead. And this is what happened, and they went and they took it out on Biggie.
Yeah.
Is that what you think happened, or you got?
It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of different things. I mean, some people feel Puffy at his hand, and I mean, it's a lot of things out
there. There's, and it's not solved, so no one knows the truth. Siren Thomas, if y'all got questions, just put them in there, and we'll answer questions as you go along. Tony, how did you end up in a brawl? What were you doing? So back when I was growing up in Queens, I was heavily into writing graffiti. So all the graffiti had your own groups. Every graffiti had a crew. You know what I mean? My crew was SBN, Strictly Busted Nuts, Stomp Bitch Niggas, whatever you wanted to call it. You know, we used all those terms. I was down with them. That was my personal crew that I was the leader of. And then I was down with another crew, TMA, the Master Artists. They were in Palmanot Projects. That was my man, rest in peace, Eric Black Williams, Beretta, Kay, Larry, and all of us. And then I was in a bigger one that was OTS. That was my whole neighborhood was OTS, and I was on the strength. So when you had beef in graffiti, other neighborhoods have other beef. In the graffiti beef, it was basically if you put your name up or someone puts their name up in your neighborhood and you put a line through that person's name, that was called buffing. And if you buff somebody, then you would have beef with that person, and that person had a group that was behind them, like there was groups TMR, LBS, AIC, whatever it was. There was every neighborhood had their own graffiti crew. If they were down with that crew, not only did you have beef with that person, but you had beef with that whole crew. So those crews would roll up. Once they found out, the thing about graffiti is that, you know, you use a different name. No one knows who you are. But once they find out who you are and they know what neighborhood you're from, and usually you could tell a neighborhood from the name of the crew, but, you know, you don't have to be from that neighborhood to be a part of that crew. But once they find out who you are and that's it, then they're going to come roll on you.
there. Wait. I want to stop you for a minute. So, like you said, it's like a code name you'll use, like they do when they troll but you never find out who the troll is on social media sometimes. But if it was like back in the days with the graffiti situation,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to roll up on some of these trolls, but you can never find that out. Go ahead, finish up.
Yeah, so that is exactly the same thing. Like you would search these people out because sometimes like you would know like if you had beef because certain groups had beef with other groups just right off the bat. Like we had beef with TMR because they were from Bayside. So I remember one time there was this guy who wrote BR1, and he was in TMR, and Thomas Edison when I was in high school. I would see the tags up BR1, and I'm like, wait a second, BRTMR goes to this school, but I had no idea who he was. So I searched around and searched around and searched around for him, and then I finally found him. And how I found him was that he had wrote BR1 on his notebook, and I seen it. So I told everyone around my way, yo, BRTMR goes to my school. This is who he is, and this is what he looks like. And they all came up to my school waiting for him right outside. And as soon as he came out and I pointed him out, they said, yo, BR. And he turned around and that was BR's ass. And that was the last time I seen him in school after that. But that's the way it was back then. You know, that's the way it was with the graffiti beef. So that's how I had drama and everything else. And that's how I got into brawls. Most of my brawls were due to graffiti and writing graffiti gangs and everything else. And I can go into a whole bunch of situations. We'll talk about this, but real quick, you know what I mean? You know, I will say it because it's the truth. Fat Joe's wife that he's married to now, she's a very lovely woman. Her name is Lorena. She was from around my way. And she used to date this dude named Reps back in the day, a graffiti artist named Reps. And he used to be down with Reps KAC, which is a dude named Keith Angel who wrote Lash. And it was supposed to be called Kill All Cops because Keith Angel was the leader of the group. People used to call it Keith Angel's Children. And he was down with them. And I had beef with Reps, and I wound up knocking Reps out. But I didn't know, but back in the day, he used to always put up Reps loves Lorena. And every time he would put in his tags, he always put Lorena's name in there. But that Lorena turned out to be the woman who married Fat Joe and still married to Fat Joe now. But she's from around my way. So graffiti it's a small world, a small business. A lot of people did graffiti back then. It was a really big thing. Not a big thing to black. It was big in hip hop earlier to black people, but black people got away from it and it really went to white and Spanish people and more like Puerto Ricans later on doing graffiti. And a lot of black people got away from doing that. But in my neighborhood, everyone did it, so I was involved in it and everything else. All right, so that is what it is. Go Lady Birds, poor BR. No. TMR was a group that called themselves the Master Race. That was what it stood for, and it was a bunch of white guys in Bayside that hung out on Francis Lewis Boulevard. So anyone that called themselves the Master Race deserves to get their ass whooped, in my opinion. You know what I mean? And that's what it was. So no love for BR and all that stuff like that. You know, that's just that's just the way it went down and stuff. So all right. But dealing with that's where I looked at. And then Biggie, I think he got retaliated on. And so when we look at both of those beefs and both deaths, you could say that it really, though the beef started in hip hop, most of their death did not have anything to do with hip hop. Unlike these other guys, not like this guy was beefing with other rappers and wound up getting smoked over beefing with other rappers and fighting other rappers, got charged in his murder and everything else. The other cat who just passed away was MO3. No, who was MO3? What's his name?
Pop Smoke.
No, not Pop Smoke. Well, Pop Smoke did get the other dude who got it last night. I got his picture. I forgot his name. But who got carjacked? Who supposedly got carjacked last night? You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like a carjacking to me. To me personally, I just don't know anyone who gets carjacked, gets out the car, runs away, then the gunman chases you down to shoot you dead. Usually a carjacking to me, when someone gets carjacked, if you get out the car, they just take the car and drive away. You know, usually carjacking, they ain't looking to kill nobody. They just looking to get the car so they could make money off it or whatever. So the
Well, at
fact
least
that
not to chase nobody down to go do it. I
exactly,
mean, if it happens in the process of them taking the car, but not chase nobody down.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
reports are that he got chased down after he got out and ran, and they shot him in the hand, one shot him in the back of the head, and also hit an innocent bystander who, thank God, survived that. So again, this seems like problem, and when I look at the problem, like back in the day, like I said, there was graffiti and everything else around my way and everything else, and you from my way and everything else and all that. Do you think that it's due to the influence of gang culture in hip hop now that's causing a lot of this
Well,
murder violence that's going on nowadays?
well, as far as what the graffiti or this, what are you talking about? Hip hop?
Yeah,
Because as far as the graffiti, they still do that. They do
well, I'm
that.
saying compared to hip hop to the 90s to
Okay,
the
but let me
2000s
let me
right
ask, let me ask, let me answer for the graffiti. Like gangs put up they hoods. They're just not graffiti artists doing it, and they scratch out the other gangs' names. They still do that. They still do that. And just that you might not pay attention to it because it's not like the art as it was.
now.
Because when graffiti artists were doing, they were still artists and they were still making unique type of art, even though somebody comes scribble their name over your art, and
Hmm.
the disrespect of it. So they do that in gangs now. So, but the gangs getting bigger, uh, West Coast definitely having a heavy gang influence, and moving out to Chicago, New York, and Carolinas, wherever the case may be. It's becoming tremendously big, and more, and people, and through social media also, it definitely has a big influence on what hip hop is today.
Hmm. Because there was gangs back when we were younger, right? Back in the 90s, there was gangs. Now in New York, there's two gangs back then, and they were called the Autobots and the Decepticons. If people aren't familiar with them, I'm sure
Brooklyn,
that Mara,
Brooklyn,
huh?
it's Brooklyn.
Yeah, that was out of Brooklyn, but they spread to the other
Yeah,
boroughs.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure that Mara is familiar with it because she's from the Bronx. But those were the two major gangs in New York at the time. And gangs have been a thing from the beginning of time. You go watch the movie Gangs in New York. You go
Yeah.
watch in the 70s the Warriors. There's always been gangs. It's just not new. Gangs is not new. It's just the way it's always been. So, but in New York at that time, the two gangs were the Autobots and the Decepticons. And I wanted to be a part of Decepticons. I knew a lot of my friends were Decepticons, and the reason why I did not join the Decepticons. I was gonna join them, and then right when I was gonna join the Decepticons, they were like, "All right, now all you gotta do is let us beat you up." And I was like, "What do you mean beat me up?" They're like, we gotta jump you in." I was like, "What's jump you in? That means we all gonna fuck you up." I was like, "I'm not doing this. I'm not letting y'all just beat me up." I was like, "Y'all just want to beat somebody up." I was like, I'm not about that life. You're not beating me up, man. I was gonna let y'all beat me up so I could be down with you. I was like, nah, no, thank you. This ain't for me. That's the
Yeah.
reason why I didn't do it because I didn't want to get beat up. Graffiti gang, you if you were nice with the can and your shit looked nice, people wanted you in the gang. They didn't care about. You always had your guys who wrote like shit, but you knew that those dudes would knock somebody out. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's what it was. Latoya Fletcher says that gangs were created to help out their communities, but things got misconstrued along the way. Certain gangs used to receive federal funding back in the day.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Mara says, I still don't understand that jumping bullshit. Listen, man. That's all it was. These dudes just wanted to have a reason to beat somebody up and not have no beef after the fact. And I'm telling you, it was the same thing with the goddamn 5%ers. I'm telling you, it was the same thing. If you were 5% Nation was big back then, and if you
Yeah.
were a god body and they would come to you, they'd be like, "What's today's mathematics?" And if for some reason you just did not know the mathematics, they beat you up for it. And I'm
Yeah,
like, how does
universal
that help them?
beatdown.
Huh?
Universal beat. It was called a universal beatdown.
like it was justified. Like it was justified by God. You
Not
gotta get
cipher,
the
God. It's not cipher, God. You gotta know your mathematics.
you don't know your mathematics, you get the universal beat that. And I'm telling you, people join those things just to do the universal beat that. Like they was about that life. And they would run up. I'm telling you, they would run right up to you. I seen it happen so many times. Yo, what's today's mathematics, man? Today's mathematics is knowledge power. No, it's knowledge born, nigga. Bah, bah. And they just stomp you out. You know what I mean? But the appeal to gangs as always is the community. It's to not get beat, even though they beat you up. It was really not to get beat up, to make you feel like you were better, to make you feel protected. And that was the real appeal to any group and any gang. Safety in numbers. And
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest appeal. But no, that the universal beatdown was hilarious.
That's what it was. That's
Yeah,
what it
because
was.
you could see a dude who was the wackest dude in the block, that couldn't fight at all. But if he was associated with certain people, he got a certain amount of respect all of a sudden. Lock Garden Ladybird, right there, acceptance. That's what it was. You know what I mean? It had to do with acceptance. It had to do with people being down. Vince Harper says the enlightening beatdown paid his life's best teacher. I'm telling you, people used to do it all the time. I've seen it happen so many times. So I just don't know how you would want to be down with something. Like, how would you want to be down with something to do it? And the 5% Nation was really big in hip hop, right, Alfonso?
I mean, yeah, big Zulu Nation, 5% Nation. I mean, the original concept of what it was to enlighten people, bring out of darkness, state of mind, and knowledge of self. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the original. But I don't know where this whole universal beatdown came from. And when it came into the game, like you said, somebody figured out like, yo, we just gonna start chastising everybody who don't know they don't know their lessons, and that's what it was. You ain't get no pass. You ain't now. I mean, they changed it. It was like, well, if your brother don't know his lessons, you enlighten him and school him on what his lessons are. But yeah, some people's like, nah, we just gonna beat him up. You know what I'm saying?
That's what it was about. Let's not lie. I mean, the universal beatdown was just a reason for them to beat somebody up, justify it in their own head, right?
Yeah.
Because no one just wants to go up to someone and beat somebody up. You it's always no one. There's people who do that, but those people are far rare. Like just knock people out for no reason. It happens, but those are rare. But the people who actually, there are people who are itching to beat someone up, but they have to have, they have to have a reason to do it. So this justifies.
I mean, I knew a 5%er, and I laugh at this because he knew his lessons, but he couldn't put down the pork chop. So he would never eat pork in front of his fellow 5%er. But on the low, he was eating bad pork chops. I was like, yo, man, you get caught with that. You know you're getting a universal beatdown, right? He was like, well, they can't see me.
Oh, and that's what it was. And I think, I'm not going to say, and like the 5% was an easy religion. And basically, that's what it was.
It wasn't even a religion, though. It wasn't even a religion.
What
Well,
would you
I guess
find
it
it
is.
as?
I guess it's anything you can do religiously. But I'm just saying, it was more like I said, it got people out of triple state of darkness. 85% of the world is deaf, dumb, and blind. And 10% know the knowledge, but keep the knowledge to themselves. And 5% is know the knowledge and teach
Mm-hmm. So so it's not a religion, but it's almost a religion. It's a way of life. It's a
the knowledge.
lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lifestyle. And it was really big in hip hop, just like the Zulu Nation was big in hip hop, and these things kind of shape the culture of what hip hop was. And as you could see, even when it was supposed to be a brotherly, loving thing, it was violence involved in it too. And you see this go throughout hip hop when dealing with hip hop. So when I talk about these nowadays, like you have the Decepticons and the Autobots, it was a Brooklyn thing that spread throughout the boroughs, but it never got big like this, like the Crips and Blood did. The Crips and Blood became basically worldwide, not even United States wide. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that is what, and the battle over territory, for drug dealing and everything else, or whatever they were doing, is truly what is the problem today with what's going on in the hip hop and a lot of this beef. And I would also have to say that I believe a lot of it is the social media, the fact that beef gets escalated, as we said in the 90s, was done by magazines, and it took 30 days to filter, through. Now with the invention of social media, and could you imagine Tupac on social media right now? During that time,
He'll be a beast. Tupac would have been a beast. He would have found his niche.
Oh my God! If Tupac was on Twitter nowadays during those times, you would have seen him taking. He would have had a picture with Faith Evans. He would have put that out there on Instagram. He would have been tweeting craziness every day. He would have been beefing with everybody on social media. He would have been a maniac, without a doubt. What's the problem? Is someone saying something with the speakers? Something going on with the speakers?
Yeah, it was, but it's cool now.
It's good now.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you for pointing out. Yeah, if anything's going on with the audio, let me know, and I'll see what I can do to fix it. Because sometimes my microphone puts out something after a while and things like that. Yeah, definitely would have gave us 50 Cent vibes. I think that 50 Cent couldn't compare to what Tupac would have been, because his reach would have been big. 50 Cent got a huge reach. There's no doubt, and 50 Cent is huge. Tupac I still would think would be bigger than 50 Cent is now, because I just think that he would have most likely Tupac would have just been a straight actor. I think he would have just been known for acting, and it would have been that. Mara says social media is a virus. The dude cussed me out because I liked another dude's pic, because that's flirting. What the fuck? Well, tell that dude to have more confidence in himself, and he ain't got to worry about it.
Tell that dude he need to relax.
That's it. You got confidence in yourself. You ain't got to worry about nobody liking somebody else's pic or somebody doing anything like that. You ain't got to worry about anything like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, definitely 50 Cent took a lot from Tupac. And that even goes into 90s beef. Even when you're dealing with 50 Cent, and how 50 Cent used beef to rise to the heights that he got to. I mean, you had to have a hit song with it all wrapped up, and he did in the club. And his first album is definitely a classic album. But when you look at his rise to fame was basically on beef. And he said it himself that when Jay-Z, basically co-signed on him and said that I'm about dollars, what the hell is 50 Cent? That is what cemented him, that crossed him over, that co-signed him to be someone that was in the industry. When you look at the rise of 50 Cent and everything else, is that what you think? Is that What it was,
Your audio's doing it again.
is it?
All right, now it's cool.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. 50 Cent. He learned. He learned. He seen what was going on, and he said, "You know what? I could utilize this." And then the whole thing about him getting shot too. Um, actually, the same amount of time, but I mean, according to his baby mother, that he got shot 5 times also, but he didn't want to get compared exactly to Tupac, so he said 9 times. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he's just gonna make it a little extra, and like nobody knows, but that's what his baby mother said. You know, he knew how to utilize this to market himself to be. That's why he loved Takashi. He loved Takashi because of that, because he see where Takashi could go with marketing beef.
Without a doubt.
And
And
the
Takashi's another
audio,
man.
your audio doing it in a little bit right now.
Is it? Let me see if I can fix my microphone. Go ahead, talk for a little bit while I try to fix my microphone.
There you go. There you go.
I'm gonna fix it real quick. I'm gonna switch microphones. So we'll see what it is. Uh, switch it to Yeti. Mic check, mic check. How was that? That's better.
Yeah, it's cool.
All right, I
It was
switched.
just feedback. It was the feedback sound.
Yeah, I switched microphones, so it shouldn't be that feedback anymore and everything else. But yeah, that's another thing when you talk about Tekashi 6ix9ine. Tekashi 6ix9ine was almost a dead man. Let's not underestimate how close he was to dying.
Yeah, yeah,
Like he was there. Like he survived by the luck of his ass. You know what I mean? Because he was about to get got. And
yeah,
again, this is but the problem was with Tekashi 6ix9ine when dealing with modern day beef was he came in affiliated with people that was affiliated. And he used those people to try to bully himself around the industry because he wasn't man enough to do his own work because he's a little dude. And then when it got tight and they flipped on him, then you got to understand that's always a possibility of happening. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But he wanted to be protected. He wanted to be, there's no, listen, you don't got to be tough. Not everybody's tough in life. Not everybody could fight in life, but you shouldn't have to be. This is not Roman times where you have to do, if you're the strongest person, you're the king. You know, this is not those times. You don't need to do
yeah,
that. Mike Bloomberg is one of the 8 richest person in the man. The man probably never thrown a punch in his life. Why should he? Why should he have to? When you're the
yeah,
8th richest person in the world, you got to think bigger than that. You know what I mean? You got to think bigger than your hood. When you're growing up and you're in school, school around your hood, when they're in prison, these are all small confined areas that those things could be a factor in your life. But once you get outside that box and you become worldwide, then you don't have to live this life. You don't have to do that to impress women. You don't have to do it. Tekashi 6ix9ine could have got whatever woman he want. You don't have to be hard. You could be soft as butter. The chicks ain't gonna say I can't fuck with you because you soft. I ain't
yeah.
never heard a chick in my life tell a dude that she can't mess with him because he's too soft.
There's
Ever.
a couple of chicks out there, but no, I don't think he was doing it for that reason. Like you said, like I said, to sell records and units and move certain content, he was doing it for that reason. And he listen, people draw towards negativity quicker than they do anything positive. People believe the lie before they believe the truth. So he knew how to work it, and he knew how to work the social media angle from it too, because he's born into it, and he's like, you know what? Like I said, if Pac was around. If social media was around when Pac was around, Pac would have been the king of it too with the social media. So he utilized that. He trolled. He trolled. He kept trolling and popping up in these people's spots. And he was like, what you gonna do? I don't think I don't really believe he felt he was this tough guy. I believe he knew he was playing a character and he played it well.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm 100%. Beef sells, right? Whether it's boxing beef, right? And it got to that point, like in the 80s, in the early 80s, beef was on the record. It stayed on the record. In 90s, it started to be like in the 80s, people were like, all right, you have beef with this rapper. This rapper has beef with this rapper. We're gonna find out who the best rapper is. And whoever won the battle, that was it.
Yeah,
In the 90s, it started saying, you know what? Fuck the rapping. I'm gonna come see you. So you talk
yeah,
about me, I'm gonna come see you. So you could be the better rapper than me. And I may not be able to beat you in rapping wits, but I'll beat you up in front of your fans. Now
yeah,
what? And now in the 2000s, they've taken it to the next level. Instead of just beating you up in front of your fans, I'm just gonna take your life. I'm gonna end your life. Now what? Now you're
and,
dead.
and you mentioned something about boxing. You think
Mm-hmm.
about boxing, Muhammad Ali is one of probably the greatest self promoters in the game because he knew how to troll people, get under people's skin, and because boxing is 90% psych, you know, and he understood that. Like, yo, I gotta beat them in their head first, and that's what rap became. You know, rap became the new boxing, WWF. It became the new way to promote it. Like, because some of these guys, well, they didn't even want no smoke from each other. But if I'm gonna sell records, I'm gonna talk like I do want it.
Mm-hmm.
And now, the audience believes it. They buy into it, and at the same time, they buy into it. They say, "Look, this is what we're doing. This is where we go. We I mean, we with this guy because he talks like this and he walks like that." But he really don't believe that. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So now rappers like, okay, I know there's rappers out there that really are not about this life. So I'm gonna show you I'm really about this life. And it goes too far now. Because it's like, damn, we were trying to make this money to move our people out the hood and for a better life. But now I gotta go further down in the ground just to make them believe me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about it. And you look at, you're dealing with wrestling and comparing it to professional wrestling. Muhammad Ali said that he got a lot of his stuff from Gorgeous George, the wrestler Gorgeous George. He
Yeah,
got the whole "I'm pretty, I'm the best." That was right. He took that persona and he used that. And as you said, he would beat people in the head. He called Joe Frazier a gorilla. I'm going to beat this gorilla in Manila. I'm going to do this, and it was a mental game. And then when you look at the Chief Rocker Busy B, he used to come out saying what Muhammad Ali said: "I'm knocking out all bums. Chief Rocker Busy B here, and I'm knocking out all bums. Here I come, blah, blah, blah." So he took that specifically from boxing, brought that over to the hip hop world, and that was it. And then you seen the transition when Chief Rocker Busy B battled people back then. His battle style was, "I'm gonna get the crowd to move, and if the people dance for me, that means I'm a better rapper from you." But then Kumo D said, "No, you could get the crowd to move, but I'm going to make raps about you directly. I'm going to talk about you as a person and how whack you are and make fun of you," basically playing the dozens. And that was what it was back in the days, playing the dozens, ranking on people, if you want to use that term for it. And that is the switch in hip hop to get to where we are now. It started right then. Chief Rocker Busy B, it was about, I could get these people to dance more than you. That makes me better than you. And then Kumo D said, "No, I'm going to diss you personally and make these people laugh at you. And that's
yeah,
going to prove I'm the better rapper than you." And they came from, and people just stuck from that Mo D angle and kept going that way and got rid of the Chief Rocker Busy B. It all went right there to Mo D. And it just kept
yeah.
going on to that, to the point it's at today. Still, because of that. And that's where we are in hip hop music right now, where if you get into a battle, the people are making fun of you directly. And that is 100% all because of Kumo D, because he's the one who set that off. And we are here looking at anything else. If anyone else has any questions in this thing, we are here for 10 more minutes. We'll take questions for 10 more minutes about anything y'all want to talk about. You know what I mean? Thank everyone for out here coming out here rocking with us and everything else. Obviously, you know, we got love for all y'all. Val, got love for you, Val, especially all the ladies. You know, not that I just love the ladies. You know, I love my brothers too.
Hey, Val.
But you know, ladies deserve to get shot out, you know, because they ladies, man, and it's the Don, you know, it's what it is, you know what I mean? Got love for the ladies and stuff like that, you know what I mean? With Latoya Fletcher, beautiful hat. Latoya was on the channel. She actually came on the channel and all that stuff like that.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying? Like that.
I see you.
And all that and everything else like that. Tony, tell us more about you thugging. You'd have to be more specific of a question just to tell you about what it was like for me when I was growing up and everything like that. Mara, Tony loves the ladies. I love all the ladies. I love all the ladies. You know what I mean? Love my brothers too. Don't get me wrong. Love all my brothers out here and everything else like that. Anything else out here? Oh, you got a question. Are you a James Bond fan? My favorite is Timothy Dalton. No, 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 no. No, we can't say Timothy Dalton is. I mean, that's your favorite, and I respect him being your favorite. And everyone has the right to their own favorite, but to the Don Tony Teflon, there's only one
Sean
James Bond,
Connery.
and that's Sean Connery. Rest in peace. I mean, it's not even close to me. I mean, Sean Connery is James Bond. To me, and I am a James Bond fan, and I wouldn't have been mad if Idris Elba would they turned to James Bond. I know a lot of white people protested that they didn't want him to be that, but you know what I mean. I would have told. Yeah, Timothy Dalton is. I've never heard anyone say that before. I've never heard that, and I'm glad that I did hear that because I never heard it. And you know, he's a name that falls off the radar. You know, usually you get him, you get Roger Moore. You know, but Timothy Dalton is someone that people don't bring up, and he deserves to get brought up because he was James Bond. Okay, tell us about the last brawl you've been in. Brawl I've been in, that was a long time ago. You know, brawl. A brawl is multiple people. So last brawl I've been in, I can't even remember last time I've been in a brawl. Last person that I knocked out, if you ask him that, was at a bar in Johnstown, New York. Dude was running his mouth, and there was a girl I was with, and he had just got out of jail, and he thought that he was still with her because he was locked up when he was 16 and got out at like 27, and for some reason he felt like they were still dating, and he tried to get lippy and everything else, and he got what he got. And that was the end of it. And I remember after I knocked him out, the funny thing about it was I knocked this dude out. You know, I get in the car and I'm driving away, and the girl I was with, she called me up and she goes, "Oh my God, are you a professional fighter? I've never seen anyone fight like that before." Like that. That's like, yeah, you know, it is what it is. And she was like, "To tell you the truth, it really turned me on. Where are you at?" And then she came over to the crib and took it very well. But that was probably the last, like, I'm old, but I'm too old to be getting in brawls with people right now. I don't look for anything like that. It would have, you know, there's a reason why you get older. There's a reason why you don't get bagged for anything, and you're able to get permits and everything else. And you know, as you know, I have youngins that are rowdy like that. And I'll let my youngins handle those things and all that. Gadget says, what does Gadget say? My white friend told me Tupac was a thug and Malcolm X was a pimp. And to me, I was like, how do you feel about, because it triggered me? How do I feel about that? Or would that trigger me? You know, I'm going to allow people to, I'm going to allow people to have their own opinions about whoever they want to pick. I'm not going to get mad or disrespected because people think that Tupac was a thug. He had thug life across his stomach tattooed. So I don't think that he was mad about being portrayed as a thug. So I can't get mad about that. Malcolm X being a pimp, I'm not personally tied to anybody to the point like that where I'm going to get mad. Like if someone says something about Dr. Martin Luther King, I'm like, you're disrespecting the doctor, and try to beat you up over it. I'm not personally tied. I think people are going to have their opinions. And, my dad told me a long time ago, you can't beat up everyone that calls you an N-word. So that's the way I feel about that. Alfonso, would that trigger you?
Nah, not at all. I mean, why would it trigger me? I mean,
Uh,
definitely not. I mean, like you said, everybody have their right to what their opinions are. So
See, Mara's like they would have caught the elbow to the face. See, Mara from the BX, and the BX got crazy
yeah,
people.
yeah.
You got to watch those BX people. They you know what I mean? It's oh, Miss Oh So Awesome. She got thug life right across her chest. Well, we'd love to see it. I love to see it. I like tattoos.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's
Yeah,
do that.
I'm about that life. I'm about that life. I'm about that life. You know what I mean? Any tattoos any woman wants to show me, whether it's on the swole of their back, across their chest, or feel free. Send. Y'all know where to find me. Teflon TV, Facebook. That you can hit me up. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. You know what I mean? I'm saying I'm that type of guy. I'm about that life. Anything else that you would like to say? I'm looking for questions. Anything else that people want to say about dealing with violence in the 90s compared to right now? I think we can all agree that it's a more violent time now. But let's try to see what has to happen in order for this violence to actually stop.
Wait. It's not more violent now.
You don't think it's more violent now? You think it's
No,
the same?
I think it went back. It was, dude, did you forget the '90s? I mean, and it's like,
People weren't getting murked in the 90s like this.
yes, they was. I don't know where you was at the
I'm
time.
saying rappers. I'm talking about rappers in
Oh,
general
you talking about rappers?
in
Okay,
hip hop.
all right,
In hip hop.
never mind. All
Yeah,
right,
I'm specifically talking
all
about hip hop. No, listen,
right. Okay.
you're talking about just life in general. The crack pandemic in the 90s is more violent than it ever was right now. There was more people getting smoked over that back then when that first came out. The crack epidemic. There was more people getting smoked. People getting smoked on the regular, 2, 3 people a day, all the time over that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it was money. Nowadays, it just seems like if you insult somebody, people getting wasted over it. So I think
No,
it's
the reason why cops have to roll two to a car is because of what happened in South Jamaica, Queens, with that cop Ed Burns getting murdered in front of the witness house. They said from now on there got to be 2 cops per car. No, I guess back then it was just 1 per car, But now they was like at least they have a fighting chance with maybe with 2 in the car, you
mm-hmm.
know.
No, I agree 100%. No, those
Lost Boys,
guys,
straight from
those,
Cop Killer Queens. That's what Lost Boys said.
no, Queens. Listen, Queens is the suburbs of the city, but Queens, where it gets down, when Queens gets down, it gets down just like any other borough. Like Queensbridge projects is as threatening as any projects in all of New York. Whether it's Edenmore, whether it's Marcy, Red Hook, Queensbridge projects is just as you have the same chances in them projects.
Well, first of all, Queensbridge Project is the biggest project in New York. It's the
Mm-hmm.
largest project.
So, but you hear people the way they talk about other projects like they're more deadlier, like it ain't going down in Queens. And just because another project has more of a rate doesn't mean it can't happen to you in the projects if you run across the wrong person at the wrong time. You know what I mean? You don't have to have a high rate of violence for it to happen. Promenade projects was not a high rate of things going down, but believe you me, there was people in Promenade projects that got and were getting people. That's just a matter about projects. Doesn't matter what the suburbs that was happening in the suburbs, that was happening in Long Island, that was happening everywhere. You know, it doesn't matter what it was. You know, when there's money involved, the women involved, you know, anything is possible for it to go down and stuff like that. They're saying they're giving the goons record deals right now. You know, the goons is forcing record deals. You know, you coming into the industry, and when you deal with the rap industry, and there's two things that you deal with. This is what you need goons for. When you deal with money and you deal with women, you need goons. Anywhere there's money and women around, you're going to find some type of goons around.
I
Yeah.
mean, but also, Nas said it. He said it. He said it. The rap game reminds me of the crack game. You know, he
Mm-hmm.
said that a long time ago. So we
And
already know that.
and
You
it
know,
is.
this game is the rap game is the new crack game.
It is because people see this is, and I go through this on YouTube. I go through this on YouTube, and this is the problem on YouTube. YouTube is like the crack game. It's like
Right.
YouTube is like the crack game, huh?
Yeah, facts. I agree.
Yeah, it's like the crack game, but without the apparent violence. Because this is what happened in YouTube. Say I used to do Game of Thrones videos all the time. Now there's other channels doing Game of Thrones videos all the time. Now these people get in their head that, hey, if people watch you, they're not gonna watch me. So now people start competing over subs. Now in the crack game, it's a corner, it's a block, it's a place that the crackheads are gonna come, the most convenient spot. And if that corner is got enough traffic coming through, people are competing over crackheads. They're like, if they're buying that crack off of you, they ain't gonna buy that crack off of me because they already high. So that is what gets people beat in the head. And it's the same thing in YouTube. But instead of crackheads they're competing for, they're competing for subscribers. And they're like, hey, if this person's watching you, they ain't gonna watch me. Not knowing that and not thinking the big picture, like, hey, people will watch whatever they have to watch. If they're addicted, they're gonna watch everybody. Just like in crack or just like in weed. If people like a certain brand you got, sometimes they're gonna want to switch it up and do something else. No one wants the same thing all the time. That's just what it is. And it's the same take. No one has the same take on anything. So that's the way it goes on YouTube. You don't have to fight over subscribers. It's best to poly those subscribers. Like when you see a Lowe's, what will you see across the street from a Lowe's every time you see a Lowe's? Most likely it's a Home Depot. And they sell the same products, but they always position themselves across from each other because you want that cross traffic. When you deal with bars, bars are successful. The most successful bars have bars really close to them because when you have the back and flow traffic, that's what makes it. When you're a bar isolated all by yourself, people don't like to go to that bar because once they get there, it's like, oh, no one's here right now. Now we stuck out here. Let's just go home. But if you have a bar close by, you're like, oh, we could bar hop to here and bar hop to here and bounce back and forth. That's when you get that dough. And YouTubers need to start realizing that, you know what I mean, and start saying, hey, it's better to have more people interested in more channels because it keeps the conversation going. And then you could partner up with other people, and they always have a different take than your take. That's the way I see it. You know what I mean? So that's the way I see it. As Mara said, that's a science right there. You know what I mean? That's a, you gotta drop knowledge on these people sometimes. You know what I mean? We gotta drop it. I ain't getting beaten up for not knowing my mathematics. I ain't gonna get beat up for that and everything else like that. But that's the way it is. You know what I mean? Yellow top, blue top. You know, 2 for 5, son. 2 for 5. That's the way it was sold in New York. It
Got
was two for
garbage up the way. You got garbage up the way.
two for fives, two for fives right here. Two for fives, baby. You got those two for fives. And that was it. All right, people. I think we
All
have
right.
covered this topic, not to exhaustion, but we're gonna be back and we're gonna have other people from the game, you know what I mean, in there. Like we're gonna talk about how the women, you know what I mean, how the women. Oh, to Tony, have you had any DMs since your last live stream? I'm gonna tell you right now, Siren Times, nobody has hit me up in my DMs, and I'm gonna tell you, nobody likes me, Siren. Listen, I'm not. I'm serious when I say this. None of these women are attracted to me. None of these women want to get with me. Nobody want to say what up to me. Nobody hit me up in my DMs on saying what's good with you, Teflon. So they talk all that talk in the chat, but the reality is the reality. And I'm telling you the truth. No one hit me up. No one will hit me up. That's just what it is, and that's the truth. So that is what it is. So yes, I'll tell you that. I told anyone want to say what up. I told them I was single. I gave them all the thing. I'm single. This is that. Y'all know my stats. You know everything. 5'10", 175 pounds. You know everything about me. I'm gonna put it all on you and everything else like that. But that's it. We can talk about that stuff in the after in the after dark. So we get into all that stuff and everything else like that. Oh, Tone, they're intimidated, bro. Hey, intimidated by me? Jesus Christ, that's a lie. That's a lie. All right, I think we had talk, but as I said, we're gonna talk about more when you see this hip hop thing. We're gonna talk about more hip hop stuff. I'm not abandoning the other stuff that I always do, Lovecraft Country, Game of Thrones, all that. We will still be continuing all that stuff, but we're gonna be focusing a little bit right now on hip hop stuff. We're gonna talk about, comparing the '90s to the back in the day. We're gonna talk about female rappers, how it has transformed from MC Light, MC Trouble, Queen Latifah, the differences between all of them, all the way up to Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, and talk about how it changed. And not only it's going to be me and Alfonso, always be us, but we're going to have other people, maybe Roxanne Shante, maybe other rappers female rappers that were in these eras to talk about how they seem to change and stuff like that. So we're going to keep talking about these situations, and we're going to go through it all and drop all the knowledge and everything else for you. So make sure that you subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. And if you are subscribed, make sure you click that bell so you can be notified every time I drop a new videos. If you're lying, I'm not lying. I'm not lying. I would not lie to you. I've never lied to y'all about nothing. I always tell you the truth. And that's the bottom line. I never will not tell you the truth. Alfonso Christian Lover, actor superstar extraordinaire. Check him out without a shadow of doubt and everything that he does. Thank you for joining me, my brother. I truly
Yeah, no
appreciate
doubt.
it as always.
Yeah.
You
All
want to
right,
say
man.
anything to the people before you bounce? I know you're not really big into social media. I would tell them give you social
Yeah.
media accounts, but you're really not big into social media.
Nah, bro, we'll catch everybody next time. You know what
No
it
doubt.
is.
You definitely will. And if you like the way I do this, please thumbs up this, please spread this across the realm, and please subscribe. Until next time, you know who it is. Peace and stay sexy.